Just review. First of all, department heads, you will be asked a series of questions related to your budget information that you have pre-submitted to this committee for review. Please answer as completely as you can. However, if any answers to our questions require more than a brief explanation, you may indicate so and provide a more thorough response to the committee in writing via our alleged budget@albanycounty.ny.gov email. Also, in order to complete our examination of your budgets, it may be necessary to forward you some additional questions after tonight's hearings. All right, so now we're going to move forward. Now I'm going to ask our majority counsel to take attendance, please.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Willingham.
Present.
Reedy and Claire excused. Smithso. Here. Malowitz.
Here.
Rayjoy.
Here.
Lakakis. Here. Bergdorf.
Here.
And Grimm.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, I also identify all of the members that are present. Mr. Beston is here, so is, let me see, Mr. Cleary. And let's see, of course, Chairwoman Cunningham is here. We have our majority leader, Mr. Feeney, is here. And Ms. Larilliard is here. Mr. Kuhn is here. Our minority leader, Mr. Moriello, is here. Mr. Mayo is here. Ms. McLean Lane is also present. Mr. Miller, Ms. Petto, Ms. Plotsky, who is also chair of our law committee. Rules Reform. Mr. Kuhn is chair of the law committee. I'm sorry. Mr. Ricard is here, and he's the chair of Public Works. Ms. Rosano is here, and she is chair of Department of Social Services. And that's it. Oh my goodness, got a good number of people. Very good. Did I miss somebody? Oh, I'm sorry. Jen, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Miss Jennifer Whalen is also here. Now we have everybody. Okay, all right. Ready to get started right now? All right, it is, looks like 6:36 or 5:36 or something, 5:39. All right, let us proceed. This is the order of how we will be taking and receiving our departments tonight. We'll start with the Comptroller's Office. Human Resources is second, Health is third, Probation is fourth, Public Defender's Office is fifth, Alternate Public Defender's Office is sixth, Assigned Counsel is 7, County Attorney is 8, and 9 is Immigrations. I want everyone to remember I have just named off 9 different agencies that is going to be presenting in front of us tonight, and we want to go home before midnight. So let's be aware and try to understand that right now tonight, how many members do I have here tonight? She said a bunch. I'll tell you how many is here tonight, but that lets you know how to curb your questions, because we want everyone to be able to. How many? 21. Okay, so we have 21 members here tonight. All right, so Ms. Rizzo. And if you would just please present the people that you have with you tonight, okay? Thank you.
Good evening. Madam Chair and members of the Audit and Finance Committee, thank you for this opportunity to present my 2025 budget. I'm joined tonight with my County Executive, Deputy Controllers, County Executive, isn't that hilarious? I'm joined tonight by my Executive Deputy Controller, Chip Dott and Frank Camisso Jr. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Department of Audit and Control's 2025 budget proposal. Before that, however, I would be remiss not to briefly highlight 2 modernization initiatives that my office will commence in 2025. The first initiative to begin to transitioning vendor payments processed through accounts payable from paper checks to electronic payments, ACH. This initiative will further reduce the risk of fraud, reduce costs, and provide the county with enhanced control over the timing of vendor payments. This project is scheduled as a multi-year effort to successfully manage the transition of Albany County's 33,000 vendors. The second modernization initiative is to transition from the current paper-based claim submission process to an electronic-based process. As part of this change in 2025, select departments will begin submitting claims for vendor payments and other reimbursements through electronic attachments in Albany County's accounting system. All other departments are scheduled for transition to electronic submission of claims by the end of 2026. In addition to these projects, we will continue working closely with the Department of Management and Budget to actively monitor capital cash flow throughout 2025 before any borrowing occurs. The county has not borrowed since 2022, and accordingly, we are actively reviewing the status of the county's capital plan and the cash flow for each individual capital project. Simultaneously, we will closely monitor market conditions to best align the county's capital cash needs with market opportunity. My department also is continuing to expand the accounts receivable module in our accounting system. Currently, the Water Purification District, the Department of Public Works, the Albany County Correction Facility, and certain billings throughout the Department of Management and Budget, for example, the Airport Security Services, have been integrated into this program. In 2025, we look forward to working with Parks and Rec to migrate their billings, example, the cell towers and the rentals, into this program. And there will be more to follow. Finally, in regards to revenue, one account you may have noted is the refund of prior year expenses, which has reduced significantly. We have actively pursued uncashed checks in the year for the year. Previously, they were prior period adjustments. This account is proposed to decrease because we actively pursue uncashed checks over 90 days old. Moving forward with these initiatives would not be possible without the dedication and professionalism of my staff. I am proud each day to lead such a talented group of accountants, auditors, and support staff. In 2025, my office has retirement-eligible employees with institutional knowledge working in local government financial operations. We also have a succession plan and a core group of young professionals for which it is best interest of the county to retain and further develop their skill sets. One aspect of retaining talent is to offer an attractive benefit structure, and the legislature and the county executive should be proud of their efforts in that regard. Through our participation in the state retirement system and offering high-quality and affordable health care benefits, we have done the right by our employees and retirees. Wages, though, are the challenge. However, and this speaks to both attracting and retaining talent. For instance, equivalent titles in New York State agencies to those in my office are grade 18 positions that were salaries above $85,000 in March of 2025. Accordingly, I have proposed an average adjustment of 8.4% to 6 appropriations, currently budgeted at less than $78,000 to mitigate the potential risk to our succession plan. The Department of Audit Control's 2025 proposed budget provides appropriate levels of funding so that we can effectively achieve our mission and the aforementioned objectives of retaining and further developing essential staff. I'm asking for your support of my proposed budget and appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report, Ms. Rizzo. All right, now do I have any questions? I'll start with Mr. Demolowitz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The 24 budget, you had in your investment income was 15 million, 15.7 million. This year you're looking at 7.3 million. So is there a reason why we're having such a discrepancy?
I don't budget the investment income. That's done by management and budget. But we are, the ARPA money is going to be put out. We haven't spent the money. We've only allocated it. So I'm assuming that management and budget then realized that we're going to be spending that ARPA money that we've been benefiting from the interest income so far to date.
The 3% above raises for your employees, our employees, is that just retained from not going to the state or other people?
Well, I'm trying to keep my people. My biggest risk if I lose people, it is so hard to find somebody because the state is being so competitive right now. So far I have a succession plan for all my employees, and I've done that since I started, so I've been able to retain my employees, but I'm worried that if I don't continue with reasonable salaries, I could lose them to the state.
Yeah. That is a county-wide problem, not
Correct.
just to you. I mean, we have, every department in the county, employees underpaid. So,
I
it's
agree.
something maybe we should be looking at seriously as a county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I want to speak to this issue because it's come up time and time again, and I have a different point of view on it. You hear, hey, these are salaries beyond the rank and file. There's, hundreds and hundreds of union people get 2% or 3%. And we have department heads and electeds come in and they've got raises up beyond that. And you say, these are proposed to achieve competitive balance with comparable New York State titles. We are not, New York State is not our competitor. We have a budget of $847 million. They have a budget of $237 billion. That is a battle we can never win. So it's my point of view, if we're to retain employees, we have to do it other ways, other than trying to compete with the state, which has a huge financial advantage over us. Do you agree with anything that I've said?
I don't agree that adding a few more zeros changes the position for an accountant. So I have a staff of 20 people, and I haven't increased my staff. I've kept and retained my people, and I think when I first met before you, you were happy to see I had a succession plan.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important because what you might not remember is I didn't get a raise when I started, 8% raise. I got 0, never got it back for 4 years. I understood that. I'm an elected official. As far as my employees are concerned, though, I will fight for them to give them salaries that they need. I can't risk losing people, and you think that the state is not my competitor. Yes, they are. They're my biggest competitor. Right now, you saw that not only the state, but the Troy just offered their controller $150,000. Several of my employees could actually apply for that job. I try to tell them and give them my plan for succession to put them in advanced positions so they aren't going to jump ship. But we have a risk. When I started, we didn't have a chief accountant. We were lucky enough to find somebody. It is difficult to retain people in my department, and we have a seasoned staff, especially with me going into trying to convert our accounting system, that we have 33,000 vendors that we're going to do ACH.
Okay, it's a battle we cannot win, and there's enough, and I'm going to say this message to every department head, because we consistently now raised salaries for particular people that goes well beyond what the rank and file is making. That's not equity to me. And we're engaged in a battle we cannot win. If we want to retain employees, there's a dozen factors that it's involved in retention, and they don't include salary.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Do I have it, Mr. Bergdorf?
I've just got a question on the parity. Obviously, you proposed this to the county executive, and the county executive has included it in his budget. And I guess my question is, when you create parity for one department in the county, do we know if there are broader plans? I listen to the people for social services. They're constantly losing people to the state, virtually every department. I don't know that you can answer this, and maybe this is a question offline for Dave and the county executive, is how do we treat everyone else in the county fairly too, so that every department head has the same retention strategy and ability to get dollars for their people? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, one is obtaining dollars for the employees, but the other is how can we increase revenues? So one of the items that I did is I didn't borrow for a couple of years now. That saved $6.9 million, $700,000 for the first year, $6.9 million over 15 years. So we're actively doing things to bring more money into the county. Same with interest income. I'd be happy to look at the numbers that were proposed by management budget, because we're now doing active cash flows to be sure that there's any additional income. But as far as salaries, I'm sure every department is gonna come up here and have a concern about salaries, not just my department.
But that's sort of my point. The other question I have, and this is my last question, is what do you see in 2025 for audits conducted by your department, both of routine audits in the county, and then, you know, you cited there are hotel audits, car dealer audits. What are the routine audits that you conduct that would be potential sources of revenue on the private side or finding problems on the public side?
One of the audits that we just released was the coroner's audit. And I know Madam Chair and the county exec are looking into, as far as the coroners and the medical examiners. And we told the coroners, we're auditing as well as DSS, as well as our financial disclosure. There may be an opportunity there, but we're gonna work collectively. That is gonna be a very intense audit as far as we have to help them with their procedures. We have our routine audits, like you said, we audit cash. We audit, like the hotel occupancy audits. Chip Dot might be able to, talk more freely. I think he has found some findings.
Mr. Bergdorf, there's 35 to 40 hotel audits we do every year.
Okay.
There's 15 to 17 petty cash audits for all the various departments. We have a schedule where we see cash audits for major departments every 3 years. Currently this year we did about 4. Usually every year we do 4 or 5 of those. They're scripted. Every 3 years we go do them.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, the auto sales industry was miscalculating sales tax and sending some to Schenectady County and other places.
The problem
Is
with
that all,
is
is that resolved yet?
we have to get I believe it is resolved, but the problem with us doing that is we have to get an MOU from the state to allow us to do this. They have the rights, we do not. We have that back a couple times, and you're right, we've done that a few times, but that's the only way we can get allowed to do that. That's part of sales tax.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, wherever you are.
I'm gonna call on myself and take some liberties for a second, while Wanda had to run for a second. Just, I guess, an observation and then a question. So my observation is that recruitment and retention, especially for a public sector, can be very complex, especially when you are trying to meet salary levels that either in the private sector or in our case where we do compete with the state and we lose employees all the time to state government. So I appreciate that you're thinking proactively and putting together a thoughtful plan about not only your retention strategy, but more broadly, your succession plan. That is just smart planning, and I appreciate that. I also would just add that if you came before us and threw up your hands and said, why bother doing any kind of retention, we can't compete with the state, I think we would have a negative view. So I doubly appreciate your thoughtfulness in addressing retention. My question is, we did have a presentation by, the legislature did, a presentation on kind of the information technology breaches that were so, such a dominant issue weeks ago. And while we had many assurances, and there's certainly the county is, and our IT systems are, on top of it. But just from a financial management as the controller, is there anything unique that you and your team do or should do or want to do that may be a funding issue that would add a level of IT security and protection from a financial management standpoint?
Well, we've worked with IT and in the development of what we're looking at regarding our paperless and ACH, and then human resources looking at, trying to take care of more in-house. We have this, I think it's called contract management. That is so important that Albany County should have had that many years ago. And I know the Commissioner of Human Resources has been asking for that, but I think finally IT recognizes the importance, and I think we are working together. So it's not like I'm coming up with something new. We constantly work with them, but we do a lot of mini audits in our own department, and there's a lot of things that have been uncovered that have never been audited in the past. And I think that working together with management, budget, and IT, we have accomplished those goals. So I don't see that I have any more needs, other than us getting what you already approved for contract management. It's not called contract management, I can forget exactly the name. But that's a very large component that we're gonna push out for '25.
Great. And how quickly will that, that contract management system be able to get up and running?
Yeah, that's an IT question, but I think they have, I think 5 months. Is there 5 months that they're gonna have, they have, HR might be able to talk more about this, and, I just lost my train of thought. They have already contracted with Munis, which is our accounting system. They already are putting in play the education and the training that needs to be taking place. They have mapped it out as far as the timing. This is, some of this has to be unraveled. It's not all or none, but I think that's really an IT question that would be able to give you the map. But this is happening, and I think the ledger already approved the substantial outlay for this.
Do we have other questions from the committee or other members of the legislature?
Thank you, Controller.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm dismissed. Thank you.
Dismissed.
Thank you.
As you were.
Calling for the vote.
More like at ease.
Jen? Jen's up.
Who's on deck?
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Clement, the Commissioner of Human Resources, and I'm pleased to present the 2025 County Executive Budget. And I received some questions ahead of time, so I figured I would go over those first. We are doing a bit of a reorganization. If you look at our budget, we are creating Personnel Assistant 1s, Personnel Assistant 2s, and Personnel Assistant 3s to create a career ladder for our employees. Did you have any questions about that portion of our budget?
Make your presentation, then we'll take the questions afterwards.
Okay.
Okay?
The other question that I received was regarding the affirmative action director and the personnel director position raises, and those are to create equity between the director of employee relations and the director of personnel and the director of affirmative action. The other question I received was regarding the temporary helpline. That is for $51,500, and that houses employees for Temp Health, which it bridges employees who are leaving service. Some are returned retirees, and it bridges the gap between onboarding a new employee, and so we utilize that for Temp Health only. Those are the other questions that I have prepared. I'd be happy to take other questions at this time.
Are there any questions from the members? Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Peter. To be clear, the Director of Employee Relations makes 95. So you're saying the other two directors should make 95? Is that the purpose of your big bump there?
The Director of Employee Relations is actually in 2020, is at quite a higher salary, but because that position was recently vacated, we dropped it down to the 399 to equalize it with the other two directors.
Do they have this, so you feel they all have to get the same pay? Do they have the same responsibility and same, shall I say, value to the county?
They don't have the same responsibility, but they have the same level of responsibility.
What about, do they each contribute the same amount of value to the county?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions, Mr. Berghoff?
Yeah, I'm just curious, what is, I see a lot of new positions here. I don't see how they're being funded. Are there internal gives and takes? What's the net increase of dollars for staff?
So we did restructure to create the personal assistant ones, the twos, and the threes by eliminating positions. So if you look at the, we eliminated the administrative aide, we eliminated the receptionist, and several other titles, assistant risk manager, to fund the raises, the raising of the ones to the twos and then the threes to create a career ladder. That's a retention effort, so individuals feel as though they're have an opportunity for advancement, where we had 10 frontline positions initially. So this offers an opportunity to advance.
It doesn't appear to me intuitive from looking at this, what's the head count? What's the total new position?
Both last year and or both 24 and 25, the head count stays equal to 25.
Okay, well, okay, because it looks like, these are number 3, all new positions, and, okay, that's helpful, thank you. What about the dollars and cents, close? or-
About $80,000 increase.
$80,000.
Baseline before the cost of living that was applied to everybody.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Are there any other questions from members? Thank you, Jen.
Wait, I have a question.
Oh, I didn't see.
Yes, sorry. So I'm really curious about the daycare center, the new daycare center at the nursing home. I know it might be too early to really ascertain how much of a recruitment tool that is or kind of the cost benefit of it, but any observations at this early point about its use as, an on-site facility that certainly is really attractive to prospective employees?
It's going well. Employees are very interested in it. It is a little bit of a slow start because employees have to make changes and adjustments. Changing a daycare is never a small task. So it will take a little while for employees to make that transition over, but employees are very interested, especially nursing home employees, and then other departments are also participating. So we are within budget for the appropriation for the subsidy. However, we started later in the year, I think, than we anticipated, and also employees are showing interest, but again, it'll take a little while to transition over.
So we're not at capacity yet?
We are not at full capacity yet.
But when do you anticipate that will happen?
I don't want to speak to the nursing home slots because our subsidy is only covering the individuals outside the nursing home. We would assume at some point in 2025, we would be at capacity.
Any other questions?
Quick follow-up. Same topic. How many people do we have in addition to nursing home staff, county employees that are utilizing the daycare?
Outside of the nursing home, I believe we
Right.
have 10.
And are they folks that work downtown, or?
They're all over. So, and they come from many of the departments, it's all over.
Okay, so there's no waiting list for people in the nursing home, so we're not precluding that as a major retention tool for the nursing home because we still have slots available.
Yes,
Will there always be preference to the nursing home?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Next, Health Department. Dr. Simmons, and some more.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I am the Deputy Commissioner of Health. My name is Dr. Ron Simmons. I'm accompanied by the Assistant Commissioner of Finance, Ransom Moore, the Director of Environmental, Max Sears, and the Director of Public Health Preparedness and Emergency Planning, Trish Bellato. I will be presenting tonight our 2025 budget for the Department of Health. As it stands, our budget of $15.4 million, the proposed $9.8 million in revenue, and approximately $5.5 million in county share, just around 36%, is an exciting budget that allows us to continue to provide continue to provide public health planning services to the people of Albany. The changes in this year's budget reflect an increase in grant funding, specifically from the lead rental registry program, as well as the Leading in Lead program. These two exciting new initiatives will enable our department to adopt a more proactive approach to reduce the high numbers of children born in Albany County exposed to lead paint. And this effort is aligned with our commitment to health equity and to ensure that all children, specifically those who are of color and live in diserved neighborhoods, are afforded the opportunity to live in lead-safe housing. It also further aligned with the new announced strengthening EPA standards announced on October 2024. While I would like to address all the wonderful programs that the Department of Health provides, the time does not allow for me to do so, and so I have selected a few important programs across our 4 divisions. More information can be found in the annual report 2023, available online. So start with the nursing division, who has achieved $1.2 million in grant funding to help us support a variety of programs focused on addressing communicable diseases that are increasing, such as STI, as well as TB and our vaccine preventable illnesses. For the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Division, which was able to secure $680,000 to better mitigate the risks of natural disasters and terrorist attacks. The Environmental Department, which secured $2.9 million in grant funding to further support a variety of programs that ensure the safety of our food, water, and homes. And as mentioned, largely influenced by the lead program as well as tobacco enforcement. I'd also like to take this time to address the significant challenges faced by our department, particularly the difficulty in recruiting qualified talent within our nursing division. Currently, we are experiencing a 19% vacancy rate across the department, with 18 vacant positions, down from the 22 originally reported. That is down from last year and the year before that. However, when we analyze these vacancies by division, we see that they are highest in the nursing division, with around a 37% vacancy rate. We were required to close our maternal child care program, which is a core mandated Article 6 program of public health law. We have instead chosen a mitigation strategy to improve the skill set of our paraprofessionals and are excited by the continuation of the PITCH program. So to discuss our mitigation strategies, currently we're working closely with the County Executive's Office to find raises for salaries to align with other government sectors and nurses. We have already developed a pipeline for public health professionals, and we are accepting and training fellows. We have already utilized per diem nurses to fill in the gaps where there are. We have already used public health infrastructure money to increase the skill sets of all of our staff so that they will stay on with the department. And we have implemented a bonus retention of $1,000 for 3 years of employment. So those are our current activities. Continuing on to the rest of the questions that were sent, I'd just like to highlight some answers now. In terms of new staffing, we do plan to hire and grow the department with the addition of new sanitarians. That will be 100% paid for by the lead rental registry program. We are also hiring a chief program health engineer, as well as a data manager for opioids. Also, all of those are 100% grant funded. In terms of the question regarding fees for service, we have an increase in fees for service largely due to the award of 2 grants the Governor Traffic Safety Grant, which was awarded for 2025 at $10,000, as well as the lead rental registry, which allocates $100,000 to work with the city code enforcement, which will be falling under our fees for service. And we did have one change in position, which was a nurse receptionist to a medical group typist to a nurse receptionist. To a receptionist. We don't have any more comments or summarizations. Like I said, we have the available annual report and information budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Your department is funded through a lot of grants,
Yes.
a lot of employees through grants. Do you see anything in the future these grants won't be renewed? Any particular ones that might be coming down?
I don't think so, but I will save the question for, the grants are usually are applied for by the division heads, who are responsible for it.
Yeah, typically what we see is when we apply for the grants, they last for maturity. So they are, once we have them essentially forever. And they're all state funded, so we're applying directly to the state as opposed to potentially other government agencies that might be offering grants.
So the hirees know there aren't grant programs. When the grant's done, they're no longer funded that position.
They're aware of that, but that's never occurred in our department.
Because you have 22 positions now that are vacant.
Yes, so, while the nursing department has quite a number of grants, those grants don't support direct care that's done by nursing for the maternal child health program. So that was a program where we would go out into homes and see women who were pre-pregnant or post-pregnant for visits. It's funded by state aid. And so I'm not aware of any, and there is a grant for the paraprofessional program, which basically helps us offset the fact that we don't have nurses.
Are there any questions from members? Mr. Berghoff?
I just want to follow up on the grants. I can see in a number of your grants that there are ARPA grants, which by definition is sort of one-time funding that goes away.
Yeah.
What happens to those employees?
Oh, I don't believe we have any ARPA grant funded employees. What we do is we have programs that we are supporting or that through ARPA. So I believe there's
Leadership training?
Yeah, there's, so those are programs. So they're not leadership.
Move Your Way, Albany County,
Yeah, so the.
diabetes prevention.
Correct. So in our county, we basically try to use ARPA for two large reasons. The first is to help with recruitment and retention. So the leadership training is a grant that will be, that allow us to contract with a third party who will provide us for around 18 months of training so that we can help. One, we'll be losing people because they'll retire. Yeah. So
Well, good, I like your answer.
Okay.
Bottom line is, these programs may go away, but there are no people associated with them.
Correct. And
So we're
then-
not gonna have any adverse personnel
Yeah.
issues. The other question I have is, talk a little bit about, nurses are a big problem in the county, whether they're at Shaker Place, or obviously at the health department, or any place else where we have a health professional. I've heard crazy stories about visiting nurses, traveling nurses. How did the cost of per diem nurses compare? How much money are you spending on per diem nurses, which if you had the proper pay structure, I don't want to say the proper, but a more competitive pay structure for nurses, you might not have to spend that per diem. How much are we expending there?
Right, so currently the per diem rate for per diem nurses are $45 an hour. They're mostly working in a clinic a couple days a week. We do use that line also during the pandemic when we needed more than just a couple of per diem nurses. But the hourly rate is $45 an hour.
Okay, and how do your nursing salaries compare with Shaker Place? Are they comparable?
I haven't taken a look at that, but I think it would be difficult to match the total compensation because they do overtime at the nursing home and we don't do as much as they do.
Well, I guess, but they still have base rates. I'd just be curious to see if there's a differential.
Yeah, we didn't look at Shaker Place as a comparison because of the work is different and the requirements are different. So a public health nurse is baccalaureate prepared, and they also have to have a year of additional training before they can work independently, because there really is no relation between a public health nurse and myself. Like, I would not actually be providing them any supervision whatsoever. And so it's a position that does require someone to be highly trained prior to starting. That's the difficulty in finding someone at the salary range. There are certain advantages we could do. For example, there's a great program where the federal government forgives 60% of your loans if you are in a local health department is one of the options. So we're actively looking for ways in which we can recruit talent. And, you know, that's one of the things we just started to look into, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Grimm, thank you. Public health, you got a lot on your plate, that's for sure. But I'm curious, what do you think is the most significant health challenge facing the people of Albany County, and how does this budget address that?
So it's, you know, it wouldn't just be my assessment of the county. There is an actual organization that looks at counties and gives them public health rankings. So when you look at the public health ranking for Albany County, we are not as good as the rest of the state in terms of life expectancy. So our highest priority is reducing the number of preventable deaths that occur in the county. When you look further into that, the things that reduce life expectancy in Albany County are smoking, obesity, alcohol, traffic-related accident. And so our programming directly reflects that. So we have 2 programs that are not funded really by the state, they're funded through ORPA, so we hope to make huge progress on that. That's Move Your Way and the National Diabetes Prevention Program, so that would address obesity. Max Harris and the Division of Environmental actively looks towards enforcing tobacco. He's done more than 500 minor checks of tobacco sales for tobacco retailers within the county. So we try to ensure that children don't have access to tobacco. We also try to go into schools and educate kids on, you know, not vaping. So, you know, we're trying to start early to have an influence on adult tobacco smoking. We also are excited by the prospect of getting dual funding and working with third-party sort of entities locally to see how much further we can innovate the anti-tobacco, anti-vape campaigns. So I said tobacco, I said obesity. So traffic accidents, we specifically applied for a grant for the governor's traffic safety to sort of reduce the number of people who get hit and struck by cars, which happens on like Quayle Street and Central Avenue and all those other very busy intersections. So we work with partners. It's not just the money and the budget that allows us to do the work, it's the relationships with other partners and our commitment to bringing innovative programs to address health needs in Albany County.
So do you get a score, because that's a noble goal, preventing.
So you get
do we know how many preventable deaths there are and how we're doing?
I think it's like 7,000. Like
7,000.
Yeah.
So does somebody actually track what a preventable death is?
We don't. We don't actually do this data in-house. And we could also obviously lie, right? I wouldn't. But you know, there's a reason why county health rankings are done by a third party who doesn't have a vested interest in the results. So that's, like I said, I believe it's done by Washington University. I think they're the ones who are doing it, and they publish the data every single year. And it helps us. It's not the only thing that goes into our programming. We have a prevention agenda that we set, and that takes evidence from the state, and that takes evidence from Healthy Capital Districts. So yeah, we develop long-term and short-term goals to try to move the needle. Whether or not we end up moving the needle, you have to understand the data that funds that project is 3 years old. So it's not like we would necessarily see the correlation based off of the third party that does the national.
That's a shame, because I mean, that's a very important goal, and it's something you want to track on how well we're doing every year. So I'm disappointed here, it takes 3
Okay.
years to get there, but it
Thank
seems like you
you,
have.
thank you. So, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the work that you do on programs to reduce and eliminate communicable diseases. I wanted to see if there's funding in the budget for additional immunization clinics, particularly in the event of another epidemic or pandemic, and specific to COVID, if there is continued funding for COVID immunizations, given that a lot of that funding federal funding is also now diminished.
Yeah, so we did have a handful of COVID grants. They have all since completed. After several extensions on some of them, we were able to do some great work with it programmatically. As far as financially, we do have the Immunization Action Plan grant, which is meant to vaccinate children, but it provides some funding for us. We also do have other grants where we perform, I would say, multi-vaccinations. So we have a TB asylum seeker grant where we can offer the COVID vaccine to asylum seekers.
And we did that, right? We had some clinics for
Yes.
asylum seekers. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Oh,
Yeah, there's, Vicki has a question too.
go ahead, Nick.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you very much for your work. Just a quick question. I'm concerned about the elimination of maternal and child services. How is that impacting the health in the county? And how are you addressing that?
So,
Is that strictly because of staffing?
yes.
And why that program, and what can be done to keep maintaining services?
So, yes, we have shifted the program, which primarily for many, many years was involved a public health nurse. Like I said, we would go out to the homes and do visits. So, like, what are we trying to do with that program? Essentially, we're trying to improve prenatal care, trying to improve postnatal care. Majority of severe maternal morbidity and mortality actually happens after you've left the hospital, after you've delivered, and you've had a complication. And we know that these women, when they're, particularly if they have economic concerns and difficulties and they don't have enough support, you're at home alone, and you're struggling to, feed your family. And it's hard to go and get to the doctor, and maybe this blood isn't a big thing, and should I need to go in, et cetera, who's gonna watch the baby? There are all these concerns. And so we know in America in general, having that postnatal visit, follow-up after delivery doesn't happen all the time. It happens, I think, something like 60 to 70% of the time. So it was a great program to sort of like be able to go into homes and address those issues of access to care. So, we can't force nurses to work for us. So instead what we've done is we have a para-professional program. And so what that is we have people who are from the community called community health workers, I believe is their title. And they develop relations with women who are what we call high vulnerability. And they assess them to see what types of social needs that they have, and they try to address those social needs. So it's not about providing the care, it's about trying to reduce the barriers. So they try to find out if they need WIC, which they may probably already know. They try to make sure that if they did not already apply for Medicaid, that that they can figure out how to do things like that. So we're not addressing the care issue, we've just shifted our focus to be slightly more upstream and try to address the barriers that would prevent such a woman from getting care.
Thank you. Madam Chairman?
Yeah, you spoke a little bit about enforcement of tobacco retailers, making sure that they're complying with existing local and state laws. We've seen an uptick in the number of establishments that are selling tobacco and vape products. Are we able, as a department, to kind of meet that additional enforcement burden? Is there a gap? Is that something that you're concerned about in any way?
I'll let the debate director.
Yes, so I'll address that. So we're committed to ensuring that, all of the retail tobacco shops are in compliance with the regulations within the county. And really our main goal is ensuring public health. And we do recognize that there are challenges. So when we look at the number of inspections that we've performed over the past year, we're really back to pre-COVID numbers. So for context, in 2018, we did 811 compliance checks. This year, we've done 674. But what's a little bit different about 2018 versus today is in 2018, 3% of the time when our underage inspectors would go in and do an inspection, there would be a sale to a minor. This year, in 2024, 20% of the time we're going in, doing an inspection, there's a sale to a minor. That's a 10-fold increase from 2018 to 2024. This year, and of course the year's not over, we've had 101 sales to a minor, and that's added a lot to our plate. And so really because of this, we've had to align our resources with our program demands. And furthermore, in 2020, New York State adopted a ban on flavored vape products. There are tens of thousands of illegal vapor products sold in the nation. The regulations at the state level are confusing. It's not cut and dry. There are federal regulations as well, and that really exacerbated some of the problems that we've seen in the field. And there are significant loopholes within the state regulation specific to flavored vape products. There is legal recourse and challenges with that. New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, they're the ones who permit these tobacco shops. We do not, so we cannot close them down. There is limited recourse with respect to facilities that don't pay their fines. Often they'll close their shop based off of a series of violations, and they will open up their shop with another LLC name. It happens about 20% of the time. With all of these things, right, 2018 was kind of our baseline. COVID-19 really exacerbated all of this. It hindered our abilities really to support and guide these facilities. And these are some of the reasons why we're having challenges with respect to enforcement.
Thank you. This is something the legislature, we have legislation at local law that we're considering, so we look forward to working closely to kind of figure out how we perfect the legislation, how we offer potentially more tools, but really try to beef up, the enforcement aspect of this and figure out how we can kind of close that gap.
We look
Thank
forward
you.
to that.
Thank you. Is there, yes, Carolyn?
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on the question that was just given regarding, you talked about the legalities of the smoke shops and the impact on the department. Have you seen or do you anticipate any health effects, increased negative impacts on the community in Albany County as a result of the increasing number of smoke shops that are opening up around the county?
I mean, certainly we recognize that sale to minors are a particular challenge within the county. And so by way of that, you could suspect that if we're making a sale, that other kids are being able to purchase these products. And so, that in itself kind of lends way to the problem at hand, right? So
I'll just say that, like we said, we want to reduce the number of preventable deaths. Smoking and obesity are the number 1 and number 2 cause of preventable deaths. It causes lung cancer, is the biggest one that people think about, but it also causes coronary artery disease, hypertension. It just makes it harder for you to survive a surgery or a trauma. And so we need to reduce the number of smokers in Albany County. The best knowledge to our knowledge, because we don't conduct the research, it's about 15%. We'd like to get it to the goal of 12. And so obviously, the fact that the shops are increasing increases the likelihood that you smoke, or if you do smoke, it decreases the likelihood that you want to quit. So it's certainly within the goal of the department to want to address the number and density of tobacco shops, which are certainly concentrated in communities of color and that also face the dual dilemma of poverty. So,
Madam Chairman?
Yes. One of the things I'd like to know, how soon will it be before you could give us some kind of report possibly on the increase or the types of possibly those new numbers that would indicate that we are in some kind of, we've got a real struggle going on now, okay? And what the differences in the type of health disparities are really actually being affected. And also, you're talking about smoke shops, but I'm also concerned about those babies that are under the influence through their parents or, being in the car, being at home, and so forth. And so how soon will it be before you be able to give us a report? I mean,
So it would be the first time we'd really be doing something like that, so I'm not sure I have a great answer for you right now. I would certainly get back to you. It's the issue of the data and the availability of the data. So currently we don't purchase anything like Sparks, and we don't purchase data from HCSC for population control. So we are going through our first cycle of a community needs assessment. So on the typical cycle, it would be after the completion of the community needs assessment, where you would get that kind of data, like and that's for 2025. We'll actually be doing that in 2025. So because we don't actively conduct that kind of research, we allow other departments like the state health department, people who do county rankings, et cetera. So we would have to find the funding to do the research ourselves if that was a desire for the legislature.
okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, are we close? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Thank you very much. All right, we're ready to move on now to probation. Mr. Connors, would you please introduce the people that you have sitting with you?
Good evening, Madam Chair, legislators. I'm here with Lori Haggerty, Deputy Director, and Michael O'Connor, Principal Probation Officer. The mission of the Probation Department is to improve the lives of all persons we work with in the criminal justice systems. We seek to change the outcome of individuals using many techniques such as motivational interviewing, decision points, a variety of cognitive therapy and evidence-based programs. We serve all courts in Albany County by conducting pre-sentence and predispositional investigations, providing intake, diversion programs, supervising all sentenced adult and juvenile offenders. We also continue as a lead agency for bail reform monitoring in Albany County. We also supervise Raise the Age Youth. The Probation Department is also a designated collection agency for disbursement of court ordered restitution in Albany County. In response to questions submitted last week, yes, we do have several vacancies. Our recruitment and hiring efforts have changed with the approval of New York State HELPS. It has streamlined our efforts by removing civil service testing. New York State HELPS allows hiring without a certified civil service list. If a candidate meets the minimum requirements of a four-year degree in the social science field, they are eligible. During the past year, we advertised on Indeed in the Albany County Civil Service Portal. I personally interviewed over 75 applicants. We did hire 18 new staff through today and working on an additional 4 more before the end of the year. Hiring continues to be a priority. The job of a probation officer is not easy. It requires strong communication and writing skills, the ability to treat all fair and consistent, making difficult decisions in the best interest of society, all while maintaining professionalism when dealing with difficult offenders. Probation officers work with many types of offenders, convicted of many different crimes. They collect DNA, they drug test for alcohol and drugs, conduct field and home contacts. Persons interested in this field often find a probation officer job is much more than they realize. Included in our budget request was 2 staffing changes. The first was to create an employment coordinator. This position would be offset by converting it from a probation officer. This position would assist in delivering programs and assisting persons in obtaining employment. The second change is simply to move an existing policy analyst into the executive budget. Yes, the types of individuals we supervise has changed with bail reform and raise the age legislation. These law changes have placed many offenders on probation, bail reform, pretrial monitoring with weapon charges. The violent offender has changed how we conduct community visits. We are all often now accompanied with police. During 2024, we saw 2 incidents of offenders with loaded guns. One reported to the building, entered the building directly in the front. The second displayed a firearm in front of the building. A metal detection machine was installed and a 3rd security guard was added. Our county security located the entrance to the building, confiscates weapons and contraband very regularly as persons enter. Our effort continues not only to hold offenders accountable for graduated sanctions, but also provide meaningful skill-building programs to help all become law-abiding, responsible members of the community. Sentences of probation range from 1 to 10 years and even lifetime. We work with individuals for lengthy periods of time. We receive persons convicted of larceny, assault, sex crimes, domestic violence, drugs, weapons, alcohol-related, and many others. Probation clients struggle with employment, education, substance abuse, homelessness, mental health. We also have seen an increase in GPS tracking, court orders. We've also seen an increase in the risk level of offenders we are seeing, more difficult and more serious convictions. In regard to the increase in our training line, New York State has changed the requirements and training certifications for a probation officer. The 2 training requirements are peace officer certification and fundamentals of probation practice. In the past, New York State Office of Probation and Correctional Alternatives provided this training. This has changed to peace officer school consisting of 180 hours and fundamentals of probation consisting of 120 hours. The new peace officer academy also contains a mandatory component for defensive tactics, which is a pass-fail for staff. New York State changed the training and certification times for 1 year for probation officer and 6 months for fundamentals of probation practice. In order for staff to obtain peace officer certification, they must now attend the Zone 5 Police Peace Officer Training Academy in Schenectady. The cost to join is $100 per staff who are registered as a New York State peace officer, and this fee is not reimbursable by New York State. The fundamentals of probation continues to be offered by New York State. With the time requirements for probation officer certifications in partnership with Schenectady and Rensselaer County probation departments, we have begun the process of becoming certified to conduct our own fundamentals of probation practice. Staff from each department have received training specialized to conduct mandatory training. It is hoped this training will be offered in early 2025. Our goal is to supplement the training provided by New York State to increase sessions so our new staff are trained in a timely manner. This budget, the executive budget, continues to allow us to provide excellent service to the courts and probation clients of Albany County. Please let me know what questions I can answer.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Demolowitz.
Thank you. In your conference and training evaluation line, you went from 18,000 to 29,000. Are there more opportunities for training, or how's that been spent?
The reason for that increase is our new mandatory peace officer training. So currently our bill is $7,500, which was increased. and when we're at full staff, it would be close to $10,000. That was the increase.
And your 18 vacancies, what strategies are you implementing to try to fill them?
Retention strategies, well, so we have the helps. We are focusing on individuals that recently completed college with a four-year degree that are interested in this field, that we bring them in, we train them, motivate them. Our past issues have been New York State hiring a lot of our people. Many people retire immediately as soon as they're eligible in this field. As people get older, they're no longer interested in conducting field work, going to visit people in the community, that type of stuff. We see a lot of our people retire. But we're constantly interviewing and trying to hire people.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do I have any other, Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, the bail reform raise the age has really changed your department significantly, for sure. Now, the way I read this, the signed release under supervision, in 2020, you had 108 at the third quarter. In the third quarter of 2024, it's 413. It's gone up 4 times.
Yes, it has. These are individuals that are arrested, they're released to us in lieu of bail. This has dramatically increased. This is the largest unit right now. I have 13 individuals that run this unit, monitor individuals that are released to us. And these individuals are also released under GPS. We need to monitor them, track them, report their whereabouts to the courts. But it has increased.
Because you're supervising more people. When they used to, a number of these used to be in jail, basically.
Yes.
So now they're, it's probation's problem, I guess. How much has that impacted the budget when you have 4 times as many people to supervise?
They're not actually on probation. The requirements are not the same. So individuals that are on probation, we have contact requirements on them. The persons that are released to us under bail reform, we use a certified pretrial release instrument, and the contact requirements are less significant. Contact requirements are through telephone calls, and personal contact less than probably once a month. So it's not as often as persons that are on probation, but they're still under our jurisdiction.
Well, good luck, because what a job you have.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you. I'd like to just follow up a little bit on that. The folks that you have that are not on probation but are awaiting court action and supervision, what percentage of those people actually come back to court in a given year? And then the follow-up question is, for those that don't, whose responsibility is it to find them and bring them back for some sort of adjudication or whatever the next step is?
So that is something we track. I have to turn in quarterly reports for bail reform, ATI, alternatives to incarceration, and we are averaging between 65 and 75% of persons under bail reform returning to court and successfully completing the program.
Like 2/3?
2/3.
And who goes after, what happens to the 1/3 that don't come back?
I believe many of them may have a warrant issued, and the warrant would remain active until they return to court.
Okay, so it's not like it gets referred out to a local police agency or anything to follow up with them? There may just be a warrant in case somebody comes upon them.
I believe when the court issues the warrant, the clerk would issue it to their police department, and depending on what court it was, if they did not have a police department, it may be the sheriff's or state police.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Ellen.
Hi. I was just wondering how many of your employees have incurred injury during this last year? And the injury sufficient enough to have them out on comp, so even though they appear on the budget, they're not able to work?
I have no injuries that occurred in the field last year. I do have several injuries, or I'm sorry, several staff that had filed some type of family medical leave for other injuries, but none existing while at work.
That's great to hear. Wow,
All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
So if there's no other questions, thank you very much. All right. I'm going to move on now
That is
to
amazing.
our public defender, which is located on pages 166 through 171 in your budget book. And our public defender is Judge Herrick, and I believe he has, he'll introduce the people who he had with him at the end of the table. Thank you very much.
Very short.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here this evening with Matt Alpern, the Chief Assistant, Albany County Public Defender, and Keith Bellato, who is Director of Accounts for the office. And Matt will be assisting in response to the 6 questions that we got. I'm pleased to present a 2025 budget for the Albany County Public Defender's Office that represents no increase in county funding other than COLA-related personnel costs as compared to the office's 2023 to 24 budget. With the assistance of the county executives team and the Department of Management and Budget, we have developed a solid plan for moving forward as we continue to increase staffing levels in an effort to best serve our clients and to meet the attorney caseload standards provided by the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services. A substantial majority of the office's 2025 budget is funded by ILS, a substantial majority of our budget, with additional funding provided by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. As part of our effort to not increase county funding while still meeting the changing personnel needs of the office, we have proposed eliminating and consolidating the existing positions to fully fund 6 new positions for 2025. 2 of these new positions, a forensic attorney and a second IT discovery tech, are funded by the office's new Aid to Defense for Discovery Reform and supplemental grants from DCJS that the legislature approved, I think, in October. We are currently in the first year of the second Harrell Herring Settlement Statewide Expansion Grant, which the legislature approved in October, I'm sorry, so the other one was in September, which has a term of April 1, 2024 through March 31, 2027. And at this time, we would like to answer the 6 questions that were shared with us. And as I indicated, Matt Alpern will be pretty much alternating answers. Question 1, please discuss your office's focus on investments in staffing, training, and technology, and how it shapes your budget for 2025. The creation of the 6 new positions in our office that I just referred to will be a valuable addition to our current staffing structure, as these positions will provide added expertise to our criminal defense team, increase the capacity of our mitigation and discovery teams, as well as provide needed administrative support. Matt Alpern will discuss additional specifics of these new positions in his answer to an upcoming question. Each of these new positions proposed will be funded by elimination of other positions within the office or by state grants so that they are budget neutral to the county. Our office continues to invest in continued legal education and training to ensure that our attorneys are best prepared to provide the highest quality legal representation to our clients. We have continued partnerships with Gideon's Promise and Partners for Justice, which will provide training and mentorship for our attorneys, supervisor, and mitigation team in 2025. Discovery, handling, storage, and analysis continue to drive our technology investments. In 2024, we contracted with Axon Enterprise to implement their Axon Justice Digital Evidence Management System to greatly improve our discovery, handling, and delivery methods. In 2025, we will be seeking to upgrade our case management system to a more modern and robust platform that will improve our case reporting and analysis abilities.
And so question 2 is, you have 13 vacancies in your department presently. Please discuss recruitment strategies and efforts to get up to full staffing levels. So I think to understand, we have sort of 2 different angles that we're approaching recruitment. One is for new attorneys and one is for more experienced attorneys. And the new attorney recruitment is really a function of the funding from the state that have created the vacancies in the first place. And in the past, the way we would hire lawyers, they had to have passed the bar and they had to have experience, and they'd come in one at a time and sort of shadow lawyers and just learn under fire, kind of, so to speak. This year, we, starting last year for this year's, we have a class of new lawyers that we started in September that are recent law graduates. So there was a huge recruiting push that we did last year by contacting Equal Justice Works, which is a national public interest career fair day. And we have a very vibrant program with Albany Law, where we have a legacy intern program. So law students will stay with us for more than a year, and we try to funnel them into jobs. And we ended up hiring a new class of 8 lawyers, 2 of whom graduated a little bit earlier, and they were placed into city court so that we could bring some lawyers who were getting more experience into felony, to handle felony cases. But now we've got 6 lawyers. They're from around the country. One's from Washington, one's from Oklahoma, one went to Fordham, one went to Duke, 4 went to Albany Law School. And we're training them. We developed a 3-month training program that we're 2 months through. So they're learning to be lawyer, to be public defenders, I think the proper way, which is exposure to experts statewide, exposures to experts in our office, opportunities to handle cases. And so we created this program, and now we're in the process of replicating that. So we've already done our interviews with the Equal Justice Works career fair, and we're into second interviews with those lawyers. And we're going to, of these 13 vacancies, we anticipate trying to get a class of 4 to 6 again, to have a new batch of lawyers in, some of whom will be legacy interns, some of whom will be from schools all around the country. Interestingly, we've gotten some folks that they went to law schools in other parts of the country, but they have family here or in the area, and so we're pulling them back into the office. So that will cover, I think, a big chunk of the vacancies, leaving some other vacancies for more experienced lawyers, and that's a plan we have to develop. One of the key things, I think, is the position mentioned by Judge Herrick, the forensic attorney position, because that's a position that could really appeal to a lawyer that's got a lot of experience, and that we could maybe draw into the office to handle something that we really need to pay a lot of attention to, because criminal defense work is becoming increasingly complex. Every case has digital forensic, all of our cases, there are digital forensics, there's DNA evidence, ballistics, fingerprints, social sciences. There's a tremendous amount of complex work that we're doing, and it's going to be important to have somebody that can really focus on that and stay up to date on what all the changes are in the science, and be able to kind of function as sort of the forensic training director and handle cases, also handle a caseload, but be able to consult with other lawyers who have these complex cases.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alpern. I was trying to wait for you to come up for air, you know what I mean? And so I just want to say this. You don't have to, outline every detail, okay? Although we're interested, we're not all lawyers here. and we're just trying to ascertain, you know, and I think you answered that question. Don't we all agree? Say yes. Yes. Okay, all right.
Now, some of the critique, if you will, of our budget was the number of vacant attorney positions. I would point out and supplement what Matt just indicated, that at the end of 2023, we had 34 criminal defense attorneys. With the 8 new defense attorneys this year, we're now at 42. That's a 24% increase. And we plan with the 2025 budget, again, the money's coming primarily from New York State ILS, to have 6 more, which would take us up to 48 in the criminal defense staff.
Okay, that's great. So I want to say this. I realized that we did have 8 questions.
I can respond to the others in
No.
writing by the end of the week.
Okay, yes, yes. that-
Second.
Yes, yes, I think that, you know, that would be the way to go tonight. Okay.
Thank you
and so-
very much.
All right. Mr. Bergdorf,
Quick question.
quick.
How many total employees do you have?
Interesting. And when I started, I just started my 9th year here. When I started in 2016, we had 37 in the office. We now have 82. And our problem is space. That's our problem. We need space.
I know this isn't a linear correlation, but what percentage of the cases require a public defender?
Well, they're entitled to legal representation if they cannot afford.
No, but I mean, how many people have private lawyers, and how many people?
Fewer and fewer have private.
I mean, do you think it's 50%, 80%?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I couldn't answer that.
Well, I
But
guess the only question I have is, and I realize we're all responding to court cases and the like, but the DA's got
I don't understand.
87 employees, and they have to prosecute all the cases, private and those in which you're involved with. So I guess I'm wondering, you have 87, or you have gonna have 82 employees, and the alternate public defender, I don't know, I'm gonna ask the same question. So when you start adding up your operation and the alternate public defender and then the assigned counsel, it seems like there's an awful lot of horsepower there compared to the DA that's got to prosecute everybody. I don't know if you want to comment
Well,
on
I'll
that.
comment briefly on that.
Briefly.
We have an obligation to go through every bit of discovery. So our caseload standards we have more cases each year. And we are able to we have to spend more time on each case to go through the discovery. So we're handling fewer cases per attorney. So we need more attorneys. And we're costing the county a lot less than the district attorney's office is costing the county.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. All right, here, thank you so much, Judge Harry. Thank you. All right. All right, now we're going to take a 5-minute break. 5 minutes. 7:05, we will be back.
You got a deal.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you're refreshed. All right, we will now hear from our alternate public defender in your budget book, 68 through 71. And our presenter is Tina Sodi. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'll make this quick. So as most of you might know, and for those that don't, the Alternate Public Defender's Office provides legal representation to those individuals that the Public Defender's Office cannot represent due to a conflict of interest. That conflict of interest could be anywhere from having co-defendants to where the Public Defender's Office in the past either represented a witness or a victim, or it could be as simple as to the fact that clients do not want the Public Defender's Office or their attorney. So many of the judges end up appointing my office merely because I do have more experienced attorneys than the Public Defender's Office does. And so some of the questions that were posed, my office, Mr. Bergdorf, is very small, has not grown as much as the Public Defender's Office has. I have 5 attorneys in my criminal division that handle all the felonies, including the 14 local courts that we have in Albany County. Just taking last week, for example, last year I had 9 homicides that were assigned to my office. This year I have 12. Out of the 12, 5 of them were assigned to my office last week. Every day last week, we got a homicide case or 2 were attempted homicide cases. So each day we had something. So every one of my attorneys now has a brand new homicide case that was assigned to them last week. So thus is the reason for adding another attorney in the criminal division for my office, which is 100% state funded. It makes it very difficult to provide representation that my clients deserve and the quality of representation that they deserve when these attorneys' times are spent in county court, running to local courts, running to night courts, and then still managing to go to the jail. Makes it very difficult to do so. I don't have the manpower or the staff that the Public Defender's Office has to assign individual attorneys to individual courts. With respect to my family court division, I'm supposed to have 4 attorneys there. I only have 2. And I've only had 2 for the last several months, and not for the lack of trying. Nobody wants to work in the public defense sector who has any experience. So with respect to my office, I need experienced attorneys merely based on the fact that the cases that come to us can either be trial ready or hearing ready from the Public Defender's Office when the conflict arises. So it's been extremely difficult to recruit, and mainly due to the fact that experienced attorneys no longer want to do this work because their belief is, I can get paid $158 an hour as an 18B attorney to get assigned the same case that I would be doing at your office for 1/3 of the cost as an institutional provider, have a higher caseload, so why would I want to do that? The newer attorneys don't want to do it because a lot of the newer attorneys that are graduating from law school, one is difficult for me to get those individuals because I don't have the ability to provide training. I don't have the staff who can provide the training. I need somebody that comes in, picks up a case, and can go to court. The newer attorneys, a lot of them want 6-figure salaries, along with they want to work remotely. You can't be in the alternate public defender's office and work remotely and not go to court. We have to be in court every day. We have to be at the jail. So it's not a place where we can give people the option to do remote work. If they don't have to be in court, yes, I leave that option out there, but if you're not in court, then you're somewhere else in the county doing some sort of work pertaining to your case. Thus is why it's hard to recruit people. With respect to next year, I did request an additional attorney for family court. As many of you know, next year, the family court's gonna have 5 judges. So it only makes sense that the caseload per judge is going to increase. Thus, it makes sense to have 1 attorney assigned to each judge so they're not juggling between 5 courtrooms with the same caseload, if not increased caseload, because the whole purpose of having 5 judges was to decrease the backlog, which means a lot more will be happening in family court. So I requested an additional attorney that would be county funded. However, with respect to the amount of grants, as you can see, my revenue has increased significantly over the last few years. I keep on fighting with the state to provide more funding. I do anticipate next year for family court, there will be more funding as the talk, what the state currently is, the issues that we have in family court and how that needs to be addressed. Harrell Herring addressed the criminal court part of it. The family court has been neglected, and I'm hoping that in the next year or two, the state would play a greater role in that and pay more attention to it. This year, I did have, in my current budget for 2024, a family court caseworker / social worker. That position was only filled in August, so I can't speak as to how that's progressing currently. It is a new position that we had created, and many of the offices statewide had created that position. It is a work in progress, as it's an adjustment for everyone in family court, including the courts and opposing counsels, to have a social worker on board for defensive side, to have somebody that might have a different perspective. However, the entire goal of having that caseworker is so that families could get the resources that they need, they can get the assistance from the defensive office, and families could be reunited a lot quicker than in the past without that resource. In regards to increase on my contractual lines, some of the increases that came about, client services, that line has been just added. It was added by the state. Indigent Legal Services added that to my second year Harrell Herring contract, the second contract that was just passed, I believe, last week or so. Merely because that line has existed in the public defender's office, but didn't exist in mine. So treat us equally. They added the same amount of funding for my budget as well. The client services funding is supposed to provide us with funding for clients who say they go to trial and they're coming from the jail, they don't have clothing for trial. When our clients go to trial, we like to have them wear civilian clothing and not be in a orange jumpsuit. And so we have to pay for the expenses for those clothing, for especially those individuals that don't have family support and nobody that can bring them clothes. So this client services line will provide my office that funding, along with for clients that don't have funding for transportation. They can't get from A to B, they can't get to treatment, they can't get to court because they don't have the resources or the funding. The state will provide has provided my office with funding to cover the expenses for their transportation as well. Obviously, that's left to my discretion to make sure that we do due diligence to make sure that they actually don't really have the resources before we pay for somebody's expense. In regards to the specialized services expense, once again, that's entirely covered by the state as well, so it's not costing the county any money, it's fully reimbursable. It covers expert services and covers transcriptions of transcripts, covers any interpreters, covers any, if I were to contract out with an investigator for some reason, if my in-house investigator couldn't handle something, all those expenses would be covered by the state. The state itself increased that funding line. I didn't request it, but they felt that my office needed an increase, so they added that to my budget. And quite frankly, based on the cases that we got last week, I think we will definitely need it for next year. With respect to the discovery, storage, and case management line, that is $26,000 of that is covered by the state from the Harrell Herring funding, and the remainder is covered by the new DCJS funding that we received this year in regards to discovery. So once again, all my expenses, all my contractual expenses actually are fully covered by the state. It's not costing the county anything. And apart from the one family court attorney, and just so that everyone's aware, the county only pays for 4 lines in my office, including the new attorney that I have added. Every other line of mine is either partially covered by the state or 100% covered by the state. So, and one of those 4 lines includes me. So 1 new attorney for next year and 2 other attorney positions that the county pays for.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I would direct you to page 70 of the budget, if you would.
Yes.
There's this traditional feeling that public defenders don't make a lot of money, but runs contrary to your budget. 11 of your 12 attorneys make over $100,000 a year.
11 of my 12 attorneys, Mr. Grimm, also have 15-plus years of experience. And quite frankly, that number does not do any justice for what they're worth.
What is the disparity between these attorneys and then the public defender attorneys? Because a lot of them are not near 100,000.
I don't think the Public Defender's Office has many attorneys that have 15-plus years of experience. And if you look at it, the DA's office has bureau chiefs that have 8 or 9 years of experience, and they get paid more than me. So if we're talking about parity, it really doesn't exist.
Well, why do you have lawyers with 15 years' experience when the public defender office doesn't?
Because the conflict defenders always had attorneys with experience, merely based on the fact that we always got cases where if the public defender's office got out of a case the day before trial, that case is not coming to my office. I can't have an attorney that's out of law school go handle that case that they have no experience with. So obviously it's not fair to a client to have an attorney that doesn't have the experience. So my attorneys have the ability and the experience and the trial experience to go try a case that they might have just received a week or two ago.
So you're proposing, on top of these 11, 2 more with 103,000 each. Is that what you're proposing for this year?
Yes, one that is fully funded by the state, that the state itself recommended that I get based on my caseloads. And the second one I requested for family court because there's going to be 5 judges in family court.
Yeah, just to point out, all my constituents pay state income tax, so it's money from the taxpayer. All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grimm.
You just answered one of my questions. I was sort of interested in what the delta was between an experienced attorney and your entry level, or your inexperienced attorney. So your experienced attorneys are in the 6 figures. Where do you start somebody or do you just not hire people without experience?
I, in the past, have had the belief that my office needed to have experienced attorneys. As we can see, the struggle exists that the county no longer has experienced criminal defense attorneys that I can get because everyone that exists has either moved on to a higher position somewhere else or they already are in my office. So unless you are in the criminal field, which I am in, many people in the general public do not know that there's a limited number of attorneys that do our line of work. And even if you look for a private attorney in the capital region, you're gonna see the same 5 to 6 names over and over again because there aren't that many people doing it. You had asked Judge Herrick this question with respect to how many cases are we handling, with respect to how many cases the private attorneys handling in comparison to the DA's office handling everything. My office handles about close to 2,000 cases a year. The Public Defender's Office, I believe, might have 6,000 to 7,000 cases a year. The 18B panel has a smaller amount for criminal cases merely because I make sure that my office doesn't get conflicted out. And so with respect to numbers, we are dealing with a significant amount of cases. And as we know, with every street camera and every body cam video and everything, all those are time consuming. And we have ethical obligations by the Professional Standards Board that if we do not review anything, and if one client says that they didn't get a piece of discovery or their attorney didn't review it, we're appearing in front of the committee at the risk of losing our license, which is not a burden that's placed on the rest of the offices or other departments that don't have specialized licenses. That is a burden and a stress on an attorney that works for the Public Defender's Office or my office. Those are the things that we deal with that other people do not have to. Not too many people are going around filing professional standards complaints against the district attorney's office for that there might be a prosecutorial misconduct. But they're willing to do that against us merely because the case didn't go in their favor. Somehow it's our fault. So we do deal with a lot more stresses that a general attorney in the civil fields might not have to deal with, or an attorney at the DA's office might not have to deal with. But people don't tend to understand that because you're not dealing with the clientele that we are. The district attorney's office isn't dealing with our clientele. They're dealing with a piece of paper of what somebody's accused with. We are dealing with the actual individual.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, do I have any more questions from any members?
Just a quick statement, Mr. Grimm. My constituents pay taxes too, even my 12-year-old niece, every time she buys a candy bar.
State
So I would say that
tax.
everybody-
Gentlemen, thank you very much. All right. All right, so we want to thank you so very much for your presentation. It was very informative,
Thank you.
and
Thanks for
we
coming.
appreciate all the hard work that you do. All right, now we're going to move on to, okay, Mr. Riley will be speaking for the assigned counsel program, and you'll explain why Mr. Dubose is here.
Well, I will try to handle any questions that I can, but I will probably be deferring most things because Mr. DeVos had a family issue, needed to be out of the office for an extended period of time. So any questions that you ask me on a technical matter will probably be relayed over to him. or
Okay.
We can handle it through staff via written request.
All right, does everybody understand that? Mr. Dubose is not available due to a personal family matter. Okay? All right then, thank you very much.
As I said, if there's any questions, we can relay them over.
Okay. The county attorney is next, and that's Eugenia Condon.
And they're just, it's kind of like
Did you turn your phones off? That what your ring? Okay. Are you ready? Okay, Ms. Condon. And who do you have with you?
Members of the committee, with me is Jordan Kuban, the deputy county attorney, and I believe Kevin Canizaro, the first assistant county attorney, is coming, he's on a conference call with the court. I will attempt to address the questions that were asked of us. First being probably the topic of the evening, retention of staff. The law department, like most of the other county agencies, including the legal departments, deals significantly with retention of staff. We have lost several attorneys over the last several years, mostly newer attorneys to the state. It seems as if the state has a policy, they come looking for our attorneys after they have 2 years of experience, and they offer them significantly higher salaries than we can pay at the level of assistant county attorney 4s to start, and they go up from there. So within the last year or two, we've lost several attorneys. In response to that, at the beginning of this year, we started looking at restructuring how we were hiring and what we were doing, and looking at what we were doing in our budget. Our department is structured pretty much in two separate areas. We have what we call our chargeback departments, which is DSS and DCYF. Those are our court attorneys. And those attorneys all go to court, and they have 100% responsibilities with DSS and DCYF. The remainder of the attorneys are municipal attorneys with traditional assistant county attorneys. We, for the last several years, have assigned attorneys in those departments to specialties and have advertised and hired in that way. We decided to change that up, and now when we advertise for attorneys or we hire attorneys, we're hiring as assistant county attorneys. That's the way I was hired. You do everything. You do litigation, you do contracts, you do opinions, you may do something for the legislature. If they need something, you would do anything and everything. And when we started advertising in that way, we started getting more resumes. And what we're getting are resumes, and we're actually able to hire more experienced attorneys. We're not getting the resumes, we are getting resumes from newer attorneys who are just out of school, but we're actually getting resumes from attorneys who have been in practice for a significant period of time, who are looking to move on and come to the county. We're seeing movement in that area. We've been lucky this year. Recruitment that we do, we work first with affirmative action. Affirmative action continuously recruits for the law departments, and if they get resumes, they send them to us. we share resumes with all of the legal departments across the board. I have different needs and requirements than immigration, than the public defender and the alternate public defender, so we share resumes. We post through civil service and we post through Indeed and through word of mouth. This year, we were able to hire 2 new attorneys with significant experience. One was through our chief social services attorney. We were able to hire an attorney with over 25 years Medicaid experience who was able to come on board, which was crucial to us because most of our DSS attorneys are retirees who have come back and are part-time. And this was absolutely crucial to us as far as retention, to have someone with that type of experience who could bring it to us and also train other attorneys in that area. This was a gap in our department that we were able to fill. We were also able to hire an attorney who was a veteran from the Air Force JAG, with 30 years of experience as an attorney, who came from the state police, who has been an incredible asset to the department. What this brings to us is we're not wasting time training attorneys. We're not wasting time worrying about them leaving. They are looking to come to the county. They're happy at the county, and they wanted to get a pension here. They're very happy with the benefits they're receiving, and we're hoping that this is a partial solution to our problem. We are always going to see attorneys leave. County Attorney's Office especially has always been a stepping stone for many attorneys. They, move on, whether it's to private practice or it's to another agency or to the courts. But there are attorneys over the years who have made it they've made it their career moving forward. So we're hoping that we're able to go forward in this path. With that in mind, this budget addresses some of those employees. Several of our employees who are long-term employees, we would like to keep, and we would like to, keeping in mind we can't pay them state salaries, we would like to at least continually move them up so that in line, so that we can, and move them up to the next line so that they can have responsibility and they can feel that they are moving up in supervisory responsibilities and that they can feel that they are a part of the department. Some of these employees have work in confidential areas, and they mentor other employees, and they train, and as a result of that, this budget reflects that. Specifically, we're requesting that an Assistant County Attorney 5 be promoted to a 6. We're requesting that an Assistant County Attorney 4 be promoted to a 5. The other 2 promotions are the 2 new attorneys that I just discussed. They were hired as 1s. We're requesting that they be moved to Assistant County Attorney 4s. There are 2 other changes. We are requesting, they are simply title changes. We have 2 supervisors in the department, litigation supervisor and municipal or human services supervisor. Civil service suggested we change their titles to Assistant County Attorney 6. So that's reflected in the budget. Addressing our fees for services line, we've requested an increase. As we've lost staff and we've changed our circumstances, we saw a need for assistance with our litigation. Last year, at the beginning of 2024, after consultation with the County Executive's Office, I issued a request for proposals for outside counsel for litigation. At that time, John McGorry, the former Deputy County Attorney, had left the office and he had overseen litigation. We were down attorneys in that unit. We received proposals from 10 law firms, for which I received authorization from the contracts board to enter into contracts with them. They are as needed in the event we need to go forward with approval for contracts for any litigations that arise, any emergency situations that we have. There are a few litigations that have been assigned out. They are either discovery dense, that is just too time consuming for our office, or they're heading for trial. We also have some cases that are going forward where we need expert witnesses, and those get paid out of fees for services. So as a result, fees for services has been increased. I requested that increase from management and budget. Finally, with respect to interns, We are big proponents in the law department of interns. I started as an intern. I don't know if you were an intern in the law department. We are big proponents of interns. We have legislative interns. We have interns from the law school. We currently have an intern from Siena. We take interns. We have an intern line. We were very lucky this year to have several interns who worked for us for several months, who actually worked on our contracts and helped get us through our gap when we were short of attorneys. Two of those interns actually worked on the ARPA contracts and got us through having the ARPA contracts completed. Several of the interns were able to, when we were short, after we lost an attorney, because many of the contracts or templates, we were able to train them under the supervision of an attorney. They assisted in getting contracts out when we were in a bind. So we are big proponents of interns. Where we are currently, the funding seems sufficient.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. And right now, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't know your name. What's your name? Mr. Grimm, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To clarify, you said you've lost a lot of attorneys to the state. That's because we can't compete with the salaries the state pays. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for saying that. I made that point earlier. You are working on other ways of, for internships, a great example, other ways of recruiting and retaining.
So the problem with interns, yes, we do internships. What I indicated, it seems what we're losing are the newer attorneys to the state, because the state will hire them after 2 years, and they're hiring them. I think the last attorney we lost was hired at $96,000 after 2 years experience.
And that's really something you cannot change.
I cannot compete with that.
I guess that's my point.
I cannot compete with that, no. And, I mean, I just can't, Some of them, one of them used the state as a stepping stone and then went into a private industry. And some of them, there are agencies in the state that they want to go to as well, but I can't compete with that. This attorney said, I tried to, do what I could, but there was nothing I could do with that. And they basically told him within 2 years with steps, he'd be at $118,000. I can't compete with that.
She's answered.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Chairwoman.
So, the line for fees for service, that's the outside counsel line. So this year, you expect to land at 70,000, is that what I
We have about
understand?
20,000 left in it.
Okay.
Right, as of now, but we're spending money out of it.
Okay. And what kinds of work are you contracting out for?
So we've assigned cases to outside counsel. We have several cases. We have a case that is expected to go to trial next year if it's not settled, that counsel is working on. We have some labor cases that are being worked on. We have an EEOC case that's being worked on by
So are
outside
they
counsel.
mostly labor, so it's like a specialized firm, labor that
These are,
has experience
yes, so
in
these
that?
are firms that were approved by CAB last year. And
Yeah.
some of them, they go beyond that, so some of them are, we're expecting, we need to hire expert witnesses for litigation, that we're involved in insurance litigation, so we need expert witness. So that would come out of that line. I'm trying to think what else. Fees for services is any type of professional service, and it can be beyond that. So if we have a bankruptcy, so for instance, Kenwood Commons, if a type of case like that, and we had bankruptcy counsel, they would be paid out of that. When we had bankruptcy issues with Central Warehouse, bankruptcy counsel was paid out of that.
So you're expecting that next year you have to more than double that line?
Yes, because when we only have a couple cases assigned to counsel now, but we anticipate those cases are going to get busier, and we may need to assign more.
Okay, so we can expect to see in CAB early in the year, like 10 contracts like we did last year that are just,
So those will be, those contracts were for 1 year and they'll be up for renewal again next year.
Okay.
There's only been a couple firms that have been used so far, but they are subject to renewal again.
Okay, and you just do that to cover yourself in the event you need some kind of specialized legal advice or expert witness, and you can have the contract ready to go, the
Yes.
retainer agreement, so.
Yes, because we were short-staffed at the time, and that's an area, litigation, where we still see a gap, and we could not be in a position where we weren't prepared to move forward.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you. If there are no other questions, we'll move on. Thank you very much.
I did my best.
All right, now, we are at the Office of Immigration Assistance. Office of Immigration Assistance. Good evening, Ms. Kenna. Yes, yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the legislature. My name is Evelyn Kenna, and I'm the Director of the Office of Immigration Services. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. This office is charged with primarily working with court-mandated attorneys in 14 counties in New York State within an area designated as Region 3. These attorneys are attorneys who have been assigned to represent a non-citizen client in a criminal court or family court proceeding. The attorneys have access to training, legal advice, and the support they need to fulfill their legal duty to their non-citizen client in compliance with the requirements established in the Supreme Court case of Padilla v. Kentucky. When we assist these attorneys, they in turn are able to guide their non-citizen clients to make informed decisions regarding any adverse immigration consequences that may arise in their criminal court case or their family court case. The 14 counties that fall within Region 3 are Albany, Clinton, Essex, Franklin, Fulton, Hamilton, Montgomery, Rensselaer, St. Lawrence, Saratoga, Schenectady, Warren, and Washington. We also provide continued legal education trainings about the intersection of immigration law, criminal law, and family law to these attorneys, as well as to judges and other immigration providers. In addition to these primary responsibilities, we also assist non-citizens in Albany County with other immigration issues that they may need help with. And to do so, we work very closely within a referral network system that we have established with our local immigration partners to make sure that the individuals seeking assistance are being referred to the right agencies to provide the assistance that they need. As to the New York City migrant issue specifically, New York City hired a medical services provider named DocGo to house and care for these migrants. As part of its contract with New York City, DocGo implemented an upstate program which included busing migrants to motels far north and west of New York City. And through its busing program, many migrants were transported to Albany County and were housed at local hotels. The most recent numbers we have are as follows. There are 212 migrants staying at the Holiday Inn Express downtown Albany, and there are 179 migrants staying at the Ramada Plaza. New York City, in partnership with the New York State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, has moved some eligible migrants into the Migrant Relocation Assistance Program, which is known as MRAP. Generally, the MRAP helps newly arrived families seeking asylum and other eligible families to relocate from New York City's shelter system to permanent housing in other areas of the state. The program will help pay for up to 1 year's rent and provide services to eligible families relocating to Albany, Erie, Monroe, Suffolk, and Westchester counties. The local Albany County MRAP is administered by Central Civica. The migrant crisis certainly strained resources in the community. In response to this strain, New York State Office of New Americans provided funding through its Welcoming New York program for the provision of legal services to the migrants bused from New York City and staying at the hotels. This grant is currently being administered by New York Immigration Coalition as the lead agency. A broad coalition of local immigration groups continue to work together to provide additional services for the migrants. Our key projects for next year will continue to be prioritizing our primary area of expertise, which is to advise court-mandated attorneys within the 14 counties in New York State. We will also continue to advocate for and support the efforts of the organizations in the Immigration Coalition that work directly with the migrants, and we will also provide any assistance as needed. We will also make every attempt to ensure that Albany County resident non-citizens are provided immigration information as needed, and that they are provided overall support with immigration applications and other questions that they may have. We continue to provide pertinent information on our website as well. Regarding the department's budget, there are 4 full-time positions. All the positions in the budget are currently 100% funded through grant monies from New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services through a contract period of January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. All positions proposed in the budget will continue to be fully funded under this grant for the entirety of the grant period. And the funding levels contained in my budget are sufficient to maintain current service levels in 2025. And with that, I am open to questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation. Do I have any questions from any members? Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What role did your office, if any, play when the New York City was busing the migrants to upstate communities like Colony and Rotterdam? Were you involved in that process at all?
Yes, our role was pivotal because we served as a referral pipeline, as a conduit between the local immigration organizations that were on the ground and working directly with the organizations. We assisted with legal services. If they had, they scheduled days where they were reviewing immigration applications for asylum and for TPS, and we participated in those as well.
What about the decision in Rotterdam, which is the hotel's right on the Gilbert and Rotterdam line? The hotel, they told everyone in the hotel to get out, and the migrants went in. They were all American citizens in the hotel. Who makes that decision?
That's a different county. That's Schenectady County.
Well, there's also Colony also.
Well, I'm not part of that decision.
Madam Chair, that had to do with a private business doing business with an agency hired by New York City. How does that germane to the budget?
Let's try to, I know that this is a touchy subject, but I would ask that any questions that you have, make sure, that, number one, I know you're very good at this, of making sure that it pertains to the budget, but make sure it also pertains to Albany County. Right now, we can't be concerned about Schenectady or county, but that definitely was an indication that we didn't have anything to do with that. So we're gonna move off that question right now and on to something else. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Graham?
No, I just say it did affect Albany County because it was right on the border. right on the line.
Okay, but not in,
No more
but not
questions.
in Albany County.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions? I want to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And we understand that you have a real tough job in front of you. We thank you for your service. Thank you very much. Okay. Wait, let me just say one thing. It's going to take me 30 seconds. I just want to thank all of the members for coming out and all of the staff. Could you hold on just one moment, please? Come on. Come on, y'all. I've been here right along with you. So I just want to thank everybody for, your time. But remember this, you're putting in what you're supposed to. You've been out here representing the people in the way in which you should. And the budget season is just what it is, and we do the best that we can. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. But make sure you got to be here Wednesday night, too. All those in favor? All right, let's go.